Hello and welcome to part 2 of our 3.1 notes. So we are still discussing the tangent ratio here for 3.1. So if you are watching this lesson, you want to have your 3.1 notes open. This is the 4th page of your notes, and this is what we will call part 2. Okay, second lesson in 3.1. So we've discussed already how to label a right triangle and label the opposite and the adjacent sides. And then we learned that we can, if we have an angle that we're interested in, we can write the ratio, the tangent ratio for that angle, and it's equal to the opposite side over the adjacent side. And if we know the dimensions of the opposite side and the adjacent side, or we know the length of the opposite side, the length of the adjacent side, we can plug them in, divide opposite by adjacent, and end up with a number. Okay, that can be written as a decimal. So the tan of an angle is equal to some number, which is equal to the ratio. The other way we can calculate the tan of an angle is if we're given the angle itself. Okay, so I'd like you to write in on your notes. Let's label this triangle ABC. Okay, and C is the right angle. We can see that. If I told you that angle A was the angle that we are interested in, and I gave you the angle itself. If I told you that angle A was equal to 31 degrees. Okay, so angle A is equal to 31 degrees. If you're given the angle, okay, it's very easy to calculate the tangent of the angle. So we know this is true, that the tan of an angle A is equal to the opposite over the adjacent, which is simply a number. If you don't have the opposite side and you don't have the adjacent side, as long as you have the angle, you can calculate the tangent. Okay, I know that angle A is 31 degrees. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to calculate the tangent of 31 degrees. All right, this is where you use your calculator. You have a scientific calculator. It has buttons on it. You should see on your calculator that you have a tan button on your calculator. You have a cosine button on your calculator, and it's usually spelled COS. And you should have a sine button on your calculator, which is spelled SIN. Okay, it looks like sin. You are going to be using this button right here today, the tangent button, but it's really important whenever you're working with right triangles and we're using trig ratios, it's really important that you are in the degree mode on your calculator. So most of your calculators will have a mode button, and if you press that mode button, it generally will give you some options, and one of them will be DEG for degrees. Okay. What I'll get you to do today is try pressing the tangent button and then 31, and if you're getting the correct number, then your calculator is in degree mode. If you're not getting the correct number, have a look at your calculator and try either use your manual or bring it in to see me, and let's make sure that you know how to put your calculator in degree mode. Okay, it's because that is important. So the tan of 31, on my calculator I'm going to press tan 31 for the angle, and your calculator should give you 0.6 as an answer. Go ahead and try that on your calculator. The tan of 31 equals, and you should get 0.6. Let's do some more, and we can round to 4 decimal places if we need to. Okay, if needed. So the first one here, the tan of 27, if we have a triangle and we are interested in the angle and we know that the angle is equal to 27, we can calculate the tan of that angle by, in our calculator, we're simply going to hit the tan button, and then we're going to put in the angle. Okay, tan of 27 is equal to, I get 0.5095 if I round that to 4 decimal places. Okay, let's try another one. Try these on your calculator. Tan of 45. You should get 1, and most likely you'll get a bunch of zeros. So we can just write here 1. Tan of 57. If I round that to 4 decimal places, I get 1.35399. Okay, that one continues on as well. So if I'm given an angle, it's really easy to calculate the tangent of that angle. I'm just going to substitute the angle in, and I'm going to use my calculator to find the tangent. What if we are given the tangent ratio, or we're given the lengths of the opposite and adjacent side, but we don't know the angle and we want to calculate the angle? Okay, if we want to calculate an angle, we use what is called the inverse tangent, or the inverse function on your calculator. Okay, so some people have a button on their calculator that looks like this. Okay, it looks like this. It might say, some of you are very lucky and you have a button that says tan. You also have a button that says tan to the negative 1. Okay, if you have this button, this is your inverse function, or your inverse tan. And that's the button that you're going to use when you're calculating an angle. If you don't have that button, that's okay. To take the inverse tan, okay, you're simply going to press Shift. Most of your calculators will not have a tan to the negative 1 button. Most of your calculators will have a tangent button like this, and written above the tangent you will see tan to the negative 1. Okay, that's written up above the button, usually in a different color writing. If you have this button here and you have tan to the negative 1 above it, in order to access the inverse function, you just have to press Shift first and then tan. And when you do that, it will apply the function above the button. Okay, so you simply say Shift tan, and that is the same as tan to the negative 1. So we're going to calculate the inverse, and let's recall that the tangent of A, or the tangent of any angle, is equal to the opposite, okay, over the adjacent. Great. So if this was my triangle here that I have, I could see that here's my angle A. Okay, and if I'm asked to calculate A, I can do that, but the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to find the tan of A. Okay, so I can label my triangle. I see that the side across from the angle that I'm interested in is 16. There's my opposite. Then you can label your hypotenuse. Here's your right angle, angle B. So the side right across from that right angle is your hypotenuse, which means that the leftover arm of this triangle, okay, the other arm from the acute angle to the right angle, is your adjacent. So my adjacent is 7 and my opposite is 16. Great. Okay, so let's put those values in. So the opposite is 16 and the adjacent is 7. Okay, so 16 divided by 7 is equal to 2.29. So here's what I have. The tan of A is equal to 2.29. Okay, I'm interested in finding out what is angle A. In order to do that, I'm going to take the inverse tan of 2.29. So A is equal to, okay, and this is an angle, by the way. The answer I'm going to get is going to be in degrees. So this is my angle. Angle A is equal to the inverse tan. Okay, the inverse tan is simply 1 over tan of 2.29. And on my calculator, that's going to look like this. A is equal to I'm going to, if you're lucky enough to have this button right here, then that's the button you're going to use. You're going to hit inverse tan 2.29. You're going to enter that number into your calculator. If you don't have that button, which most of you won't, you're going to press Shift tan. So we're going to take our inverse tan, and then we're going to put 2.29 into your calculator. And the number that comes out, you should get 66, and this number is in degrees. Angle A is equal to 66 degrees. Let's do a couple more for practice. So the first thing I always want to do is, especially if I'm not immediately given the ratio, I want to calculate the ratio, okay, the tangent ratio for my triangle. So this time we're looking for angle E. Okay, so I identify angle E on my triangle. It's right here. Okay, there's angle E right there. I can label my triangle right away. So across from angle E is going to be my opposite side. Well, it's equal to 5. And my hypotenuse is very easy to label. It's going to be the side across from my right angle, which leaves the other arm of this triangle as my adjacent side. So there's my adjacent side is equal to 9. I know that the tan of E is always going to be equal to the opposite over the adjacent. Okay, so in this case, the opposite is equal to 5, and the adjacent is equal to 9. So I'm going to compute 5 divided by 9, and I get 0.5555. This continues. Let's round this off to 0.5. Let's round this right here to the second decimal place. Okay, 0.56. So 0.56 is equal to the tan of E. If I want to solve for the angle E, okay, to take the angle, I need to take the inverse tan. So if the tan of E is equal to 0.56, then angle E is the inverse tan of 0.56. Okay, or shift or second function. So on your calculator, that's going to look like this. Angle E is equal to either second function or shift tan. Okay, that simply gives me the inverse tan. And I'm going to put 0.56, which is my ratio, and the angle E in your calculator should come out to 29.2, and we can round that up. If we're going to round our angle to the nearest degree, let's say that's going to be 29. Okay, 29 degrees. Excellent. A little summary. Okay, so a little summary here for us. The tangent of an angle is always equal to the opposite over the adjacent side lengths. Okay, this ratio lets us find the tangent ratio. It also lets us find side length, and we'll look at how to use this a little bit later. So for example, if I knew what the tangent of theta was, and I knew the length of the opposite side, I could use this formula and rearrange it to find the adjacent side. So we're going to use this when finding the tangent ratio. So if you're asked to find the tangent ratio of something, you're going to use this formula. Okay, or we can also use this to find a side length. And we'll do some examples of that in part 3. The second formula then that we have is that theta when you're looking for an angle, theta is equal to the inverse tan, okay, of your opposite over your adjacent. So you can compute your opposite over your adjacent, you can compute that ratio in your calculator, and then you're going to simply take the inverse tan of that ratio to give your angle. So this formula lets us find angles when we know the opposite and the adjacent sides. Okay, or if we know the ratio. Excellent. I'd like you at this point to try part 1 of your sorry, and I think it says it right there in your notes, but I'd like you to try part 1 of worksheet 3.1. The answers are posted on the website, so you can check your answers, make sure you're doing everything correctly, and do make sure that your calculator is working. So if you're having any troubles with the calculator, drop by and see me or let me know, or try to find your manual and figure out how to put it in degree mode. Okay, and then join us again for part 3, which is the last section here for 3.1. Bye for now.